Shelley Miller will forever be one of my favorite English teachers. She was originally one of the advisors for the high school's drama club, and then I had her for 10th grade English, and then again for writing workshop. But the reason she has had such an impact on me, other than the fact that she taught one of my favorite subjects, was that she was the kindest, most creative person I've ever known. Shelley Miller was a caring soul. She would listen to your fears and problems and would never be judgmental about what you were going through. She would never yell or become impatient unless you were a real problem in her class, which then of course she would be very stern. She was also patient with creativity. I remember I was writing a long Gothic novel. It was an assignment for our writing workshop class, and I remember being so fixated on making the perfect novel and trying to make sure everything was just right, and it also was very long. She gave me a ton of time to do it and even extended the deadline for me because she wanted to know what I was going to put down. And it was very, very kind of her to let her do that, because most teachers would have just gave me an original due date and whatever I had done I would just turn in. She was also very relatable. She brought in a Keurig so everyone could have coffee and tea whenever they wanted. It was really just a friendly book club. I had writing workshop 7th period, and she made sure that everyone felt welcome and that everyone could have a cup of coffee whenever they needed it. She often talked about her sweetheart dog, and even brought him in during one of our play practices, which was very nice. She knew of our struggles and related to them with advice, and it was just very nice to have someone who you could talk to and listen to without there being any need to describe or explain yourself or have to defend yourself. She remembered being her patient with me on stage. My 8th grade year, I was very new to theater and drama club, and I remember having to get up on the stage and face the audience, and I was a little bit unsure about stage presence. There is another director who wasn't as patient with me, and kind of hurt my feelings a bit, but at the very end I asked her to help me, and she stayed afterwards, without needing to, got up on the stage with me and told me about stage presence and how I should deliver my lines, which helped me in the long run tremendously of my theater career. She was also an extremely supportive woman. She knew of my love of theater and encouraged it. There were a couple of teachers who told me to even be a doctor, something more practical, but she knew I loved theater and that I would never be happy in any other profession that didn't have anything to do with being on stage or writing or the arts. She would always stop and genuinely say how beautiful our art was. We created posters in class for different books, and she absolutely loved it and couldn't stop saying how much she loved our creativity. She also loved my stories and told me how she couldn't wait for the next one. There was this one story I wrote. It was a bit out there since we were supposed to create like a horror short story, and it was about a young child who was a murderer, and she attacked her uncle. Since she was adopted, she attacked her adoptive uncle, and then she tried to kill him, and then she somehow managed to escape. And I remember the year after I wrote that, she still talked about it, and she wanted me to print it off so she could show other teachers, and it really made me feel like my work was valued. There were hard times in high school where I never felt good enough or welcomed, mainly in sometimes band or other classes, but in Miss Miller's class, it would be that one area where I could truly feel comfortable with myself. I owe a lot to her for creating that bright spot of light during my high school years.